Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to stand before you today to speak about a truth that has the power to transform our lives, calm our storms, and bring clarity to our confusion. The profound act of leaving it all in God's hands. Lewis. In a world where we often strive to control every detail of our lives, where deadlines, decisions, and dilemmas press in on us from every side, the idea of surrender might seem counterintuitive. We're taught to take charge, to solve our problems, and to make things happen. But what happens when our strength isn't enough? What happens when we've done all we can and the answer still seems out of reach? The power of surrender is a profound concept that challenges our natural instincts and societal norms. In a world that emphasizes control, determination, and self-reliance, the idea of surrendering can often seem counterproductive. Yet, when we delve deeper, we realize that surrendering, especially to God, is not about weakness, but about wisdom. It's about recognizing the limits of our human capabilities and embracing the boundless possibilities that come with divine intervention. When we say leave it in God's hands, we are making a conscious choice to let go of the burdens we are carrying. Life is filled with challenges that test our patience, strength, and resolve. Whether it's a difficult decision or lingering worry or a dream that seems out of reach, we often find ourselves consumed by the pressure to resolve everything on our own. This relentless pursuit of control can lead to stress, anxiety, and even despair when outcomes don't align with our expectations. But surrendering to God doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. Transferring our concerns to the one who is far greater than we are. Surrendering is a process of faith. It begins with a realization that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. The creator of the universe, who set the stars in place and crafted the intricacies of life, is more than capable of handling our challenges. When we surrender, we acknowledge that our finite minds cannot comprehend the infinite plans and purposes of God. It's an act of humility, an admission that we need help beyond what we can provide for ourselves. This act of surrender is not passive, it is active and intentional. It requires us to take a step of faith, releasing our grip on what we cannot control and trusting God to work things out for our good. It's about doing what we can, praying, working diligently, and making wise decisions, and then allowing God to handle the rest. This partnership between our efforts and His sovereignty is where the beauty of surrender lies. We are not abdicating responsibility. We are aligning ourselves with His will and timing. Surrendering also involves a shift in perspective. It's about moving from a mindset of, I have to fix this, to God is in control. This shift doesn't come easily, especially when we are accustomed to relying on our strength and resources. But as we practice surrender, we begin to experience the freedom that comes with it. We no longer have to obsess over outcomes or fear the unknown, because we know that God's plans are better than anything we could devise. His wisdom is unmatched, and His love for us ensures that He is always working in our best interest. One of the most liberating aspects of surrender is the peace it brings. When we place our worries in God's hands, we find rest for our souls. This peace doesn't come from an absence of problems, but from the assurance that we are not alone in facing them. God's hands are a place of safety, strength, and provision. They remind us that we are held by a power far greater than our own, a power that has overcome every obstacle and conquered every fear. Surrendering to God is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. It's choosing moment by moment to trust Him over our understanding, to rely on His strength instead of our own. It's a journey of faith that grows deeper with time as we witness His faithfulness in our lives. And as we continue to surrender, we not only find solutions to our problems, but also discover a deeper relationship with the one who holds us in His hands. Prayer is a powerful and intimate connection between us and God. It serves as a bridge between our hearts and His divine wisdom, a way to communicate with the Creator of the universe. Prayer is often seen as a moment of asking for help or guidance, but it is also a space where we open ourselves up to listen, reflect, and grow. Through prayer, we invite God into our circumstances, acknowledging that He is the source of strength, clarity, and peace that we so desperately need in times of uncertainty. When we pray, we are not merely speaking words, we are engaging in a spiritual dialogue with God. This exchange is more than just asking for favors or blessings. It's a chance to align our hearts with His will, to seek His guidance, and to express our trust in His plan for our lives. Prayer allows us to relinquish control and place our concerns in the hands of a higher power who has the wisdom to guide us through every situation. It's about trusting that God hears our prayers and that He is already at work, even before we see the outcome. One of the greatest gifts of prayer is the peace that it brings. When we bring our worries, fears, and anxieties to God in prayer, we begin to experience a sense of calm. It's as if the weight of our burdens is lifted as we hand them over to God. This peace doesn't come from the absence of challenges, but from the assurance that we are not facing them alone. The Creator of the universe is with us, listening to our hearts and guiding us through every step. Moreover, prayer is not just about seeking help. It is also about building a relationship with God. Just as any relationship requires communication, our relationship with God grows and deepens through regular heartfelt conversations with Him. Prayer opens the door for us to express gratitude, to acknowledge His goodness, and to praise His greatness. It is in these moments that we grow in our understanding of who God is and how much He loves us. As we spend time in prayer, we cultivate a deeper connection with God that strengthens our faith and trust in His abilities. Prayer also provides us with clarity. Often in the hustle and bustle of life, it can be difficult to hear God's voice amid the noise. But when we set aside time for quiet, intentional prayer, we allow space for God's guidance to come through clearly. Prayer helps us discern His will for our lives, bringing insight into decisions we must make, and offering direction when we are unsure of the path ahead. It is through prayer that we receive the comfort of knowing that God is leading us, even when the way forward may not be immediately clear. In addition, prayer helps us grow in humility. By praying, we acknowledge that we do not have all the answers and that we are dependent on God's wisdom and provision. This humility opens the door for God to move in our lives as we step aside and allow Him to work in ways that are beyond our understanding. Prayer becomes a moment of surrender where we lay down our pride and trust that God's plan is always better than our own. Trust is a foundational aspect of our relationship with God, and it plays a critical role in our ability to surrender to His will. In many ways, trust is the bridge that connects our hearts to the Creator's heart. It's easy to trust when everything is going well, when our lives are smooth, and when we can see the results of our efforts. But trust becomes particularly significant when life presents challenges, when answers aren't clear, and when circumstances seem overwhelming. In those moments, trust is what allows us to let go of our fears and doubts, to relinquish control, and to rest in the assurance that God's plans for us are good and filled with purpose. Trusting God means believing that He is who He says He is and that His promises are true no matter what we face. It's easy to trust in a personal situation that we can see and understand, but trusting God requires faith in the unseen. It's about holding on to the truth that God is faithful even when we can't see the full picture or understand why certain things are happening in our lives. Trust doesn't require us to have all the answers. It simply requires us to have faith that God's answers are always better than our own. We may not always understand His timing or His methods, but we trust that His wisdom far surpasses ours and that He is working everything together for our good. Trusting God also means letting go of the need to control every outcome. This is one of the hardest parts of trust. As human beings, we tend to want to plan, organize, and direct the course of our lives. We believe that if we work hard enough or plan carefully enough, we can control the results. But God's ways are not our ways, And often his plans unfold in ways that we could never anticipate. Trust requires us to step back, release our desire for control, and allow God to lead us in the direction he has intended for us. It is acknowledging that while we can take action, the ultimate outcome is in God's hands, and we can trust him to work things out in his perfect timing. True trust also involves being willing to wait. Sometimes we might not get immediate answers to our prayers, and the road ahead may seem unclear. Trusting God during these times involves waiting with patience, believing that God is still at work, even when we don't see the results. It means holding on to the confidence that he knows exactly what we need, when we need it, and how to best bring it about. Waiting doesn't mean passivity. Rather, it means being actively engaged in faith, knowing that God's plan is unfolding in its own time. Furthermore, trust is a continual choice. It's not something that we can do once and then forget about. Every day presents new challenges, and each new situation requires us to choose trust again. Trusting God isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice that strengthens as we see God's faithfulness in our lives. The more we choose to trust him, the more we experience his provision, his love, and his guidance, which in turn builds our confidence in his ability to handle our lives better than we ever could. Trust in God is a powerful force that not only strengthens our relationship with him, but also brings peace to our hearts. When we trust God fully, we free ourselves from the burden of worry and fear. We no longer feel the need to control every detail of our lives because we know that the one who holds the universe also holds us in his care. Trusting God brings a profound sense of peace, knowing that no matter what happens, we are in the hands of the one who loves us, knows us, and is always working on our behalf. Patience is a virtue that is often tested in the journey of life, and it is an essential component of trusting God. It is easy to be patient when everything is going as expected, when answers come quickly, and when things align with our desires. However, true patience is most valuable when we face delays, setbacks, or periods of uncertainty. It is during these times that patience reveals its power, teaching us to wait with expectation and trust that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. Patience with God requires a shift in perspective. In our fast-pacing world, we are conditioned to expect instant results. From the click of a button to the speed of modern technology, we are used to things happening quickly. But God's ways often operate on a different timetable. He doesn't rush, and his plans unfold at their own pace, which may not always match our immediate desires or sense of urgency. This can be difficult to accept, especially when we're facing a challenge or hoping for a breakthrough. But patience teaches us to trust that God's timing is never late and that his plan is always worth the wait. When we experience delays or unanswered prayers, it's easy to feel discouraged or question whether God is listening. However, patience reminds us that God is never idle. He is always working behind the scenes, preparing us for what's to come. Sometimes the waiting period is not about a lack of action, but about a season of preparation. During times of waiting, God may be molding us, building our character, strengthening our faith, and preparing us for the blessings that he has in store. Patience teaches us that waiting is not wasted time. It is an opportunity for growth and deepening our reliance on God. Moreover, patience helps us develop resilience. In the face of challenges, we often find ourselves tested and stretched beyond our comfort zones. Patience allows us to endure these difficulties with hope, knowing that we are not alone in the process. It gives us the strength to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead seems long or uncertain. Patience is not passive resignation, but an active choice to keep trusting God, even when the answer is not immediate. It is a reminder that no matter how difficult the wait may be, God is with us every step of the way, guiding us through the process and strengthening our faith. Another important aspect of patience is the ability to remain calm and composed in the face of challenges. It is easy to become frustrated when things don't go according to plan, but patience teaches us to maintain a peaceful attitude in the midst of adversity. It encourages us to trust that God is in control and that His ways are higher than ours. Patience is a sign of maturity, as it reflects an understanding that some things are beyond our control and that we must trust God to handle them in His perfect time. Patience also allows us to develop a deeper sense of gratitude. In times of waiting, we learn to appreciate the small moments, the lessons learned, and the growth that happens even before the desired outcome materializes. We begin to see God's hand at work in our lives, even in the seemingly quiet or uneventful moments. Patience opens our eyes to the blessings that are already present, even as we wait for the greater things ahead. In addition, patience allows us to become more empathetic and compassionate toward others. When we've experienced waiting and delays ourselves, we become more understanding of the struggles that others may be facing. Patience deepens our compassion and encourages us to be patient with those around us, just as we have learned to be patient with God's timing in our own lives. The gift of peace is one of the most profound blessings that comes from surrendering our burdens to God. In a world filled with noise, stress, and constant demands, peace can often feel elusive. We are surrounded by distractions, worries, and pressures that pull us in different directions. Yet the peace that comes from trusting God is unlike any peace the world can offer. It is a peace that transcends circumstances, a peace that anchors us in the midst of life's storms, and a peace that only God can provide. When we surrender our concerns to God, we are no longer carrying the weight of our struggles alone. The act of releasing our fears, anxieties, and worries into God's hands brings a sense of calm that we cannot find through our own efforts. This peace is not the absence of problems, but the assurance that we are not facing them by ourselves. It is the quiet confidence that God is with us, guiding us and working on our behalf, even when the situation seems uncertain. The peace that comes from God provides a deep sense of comfort, knowing that we are held in His care. One of the most remarkable aspects of this peace is that it surpasses understanding. It doesn't depend on our circumstances or the resolution of our problems. In fact, we often experience this peace most profoundly during times of difficulty, when everything seems to be falling apart. It's as if in the midst of chaos, we are wrapped in a sense of calm that doesn't make sense to the world. People may look at us and wonder how we can remain peaceful in the face of adversity, but it is because our peace comes from a source beyond ourselves. It comes from the Creator, who holds everything in His hands. This peace also allows us to release control and stop worrying about outcomes. We live in a world where we are often encouraged to take charge, to plan every detail, and to control every result. While planning is important, there are times when we must let go and trust that God has it all under control. When we surrender to Him, we are freed from the pressure of trying to orchestrate everything ourselves. This doesn't mean being passive. It means taking action where we can and trusting God with the rest. As we release our need to control the situation, we find peace in knowing that the ultimate outcome is in God's hands, and that His plans are always better than ours. Peace also allows us to be present in the moment. In our busy world, we're often distracted by worries about the future or regrets from the past. But when we experience God's peace, we are able to focus on the present and enjoy the blessings that are before us. We no longer live in constant anxiety about what's to come, because we trust that God is already working on our behalf. This peace frees us to live fully in the moment, to appreciate the beauty around us, and to be grateful for what we have, rather than constantly worrying about what we don't. Furthermore, the peace that God gives us strengthens our relationships with others. When we are at peace with God, we are more likely to be at peace with those around us. We are able to approach challenges and conflicts with a calm demeanor, knowing that God is guiding us in our responses. Peace helps us to be more patient, understanding, and compassionate as we reflect the calmness and assurance that comes from God. It allows us to build stronger, more harmonious relationships with others, free from the tension that arises from worry and fear. This peace is also a powerful witness to others. When people see us experiencing peace in difficult times, they may be drawn to ask how we maintain such calm. Our peace becomes a testimony of God's faithfulness, and it opens the door for us to share the hope that we have in Him. It's through our peace that others may see the presence of God in our lives and be inspired to seek that same peace for themselves. God's strength and sovereignty are central to our understanding of His nature and His ability to guide us through life's challenges. In a world where we often rely on our own strength, resources, and abilities, it can be difficult to fully comprehend the vastness of God's power. Yet, when we realize that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and ever-present, we come to understand that He is more than capable of handling our struggles, fears, and uncertainties. God's strength is not just a passive force. It is an active and dynamic power that works within us and through us, empowering us to overcome whatever obstacles we may face. God's sovereignty means that He is in control of all things, both big and small. He holds the universe in His hands and orchestrates the events of our lives according to His perfect will. Nothing happens by chance, and no circumstance is beyond His reach. When we face challenges, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed or helpless. But remembering God's sovereignty reminds us that He is not caught off guard by our struggles. He has a plan for our lives, and His plans are always for our good. Even when things don't go as we expect or hope, we can trust that God is working behind the scenes, aligning everything for His greater purpose. Knowing Jesus Christ is a security in the future. It all begins with God and His plans for His greater purpose. God's strength is not limited to His ability to control external circumstances. His strength also empowers us on the inside. When we feel weak, weary, or inadequate, God's strength lifts us up and gives us the courage to keep going. The Apostle Paul reminds us that when we are weak, God's power is made perfect in us. 2 Corinthians 12:9. This means that in our moments of vulnerability, we are more open to experiencing God's strength in profound ways. His strength is made evident not in our own abilities, but in His ability to carry us through difficulties and challenges. By relying on His strength, we can endure hardships that we would not be able to face on our own. In moments when we are tempted to take matters into our own hands or to rely on our own strength, we can pause and remember that God is the ultimate source of power. Our strength is limited, but His strength is infinite. We are not meant to face life's challenges alone. God's strength equips us to endure, to overcome, and to thrive in the face of adversity. And His sovereignty assures us that we are always in the care of a God who is fully in control, who knows the end from the beginning, and who is always working for our ultimate good. As we surrender our worries, trust in His plan, and rely on His strength, we can face each day with confidence, knowing that God's sovereignty is the firm foundation upon which our lives are built. His strength is our strength, and His power is at work within us, enabling us to walk through life with unwavering faith and trust. We can leave everything in His hands, knowing that He will always lead us, protect us, and provide for us according to His perfect will. In conclusion, when we leave it in God's hands, we are surrendering not only our worries, but also our desires, our fears, and our need for control. We are placing everything into the hands of a loving, all-powerful, and sovereign God who knows what is best for us. This act of surrender brings peace, strength, and confidence as we trust that God is in control and that He will lead us through every trial and triumph. So, whatever you are facing today, remember that you are never alone. Leave it in God's hands and trust in His perfect plan for your life. Hallelujah.